folks, we're at Springfield Airport in Illinois, and we just brought in a B-17 Bomber, World War II vintage bomber. We just did a flight today with a World War II veteran on. That's really the program. It's a flying museum to fly the aircraft and show them off and teach people what happened 70 some odd years ago.
We're here to tour the country, to educate the public on what these men did, and to honor the veterans that flew these aircraft and that served in World War II.
It was a long-range bomber. You know, that was its job. You can go up to 36,400 feet. It's not pressurized. The skin on the aircraft is aluminum. It's about as thick as a beer can. So up there you're talking minus 50 degrees. So it gets very cold, very uncomfortable. A lot of times they would take off where it was very hot. So here it is, you're sweating on the ground all the way up to about 10,000 feet, start cooling off, and then you end up freezing up at 36,400 feet. This is actually the most authentic bomber, B-17 bomber flying around today, which there's only about 5 or 8 of them flying anyway.
They thought the B-17s could protect themselves with the amount of guns that were on there, and they found out that they couldn't. So they would lose 30, 40, sometimes 50 planes a day on a raid. Each one of these planes holds 10 guys. So that was either 300, 400, or 500 guys shot down, killed, captured, or wounded every day.
Went to bed, woke up early, you had a mission, and you flew 8 to 10 hours. And there's 10 individuals on this aircraft. There's 13 machine guns on the aircraft, all 50 caliber. And it would carry about 8,000 pounds. And again, 8 hours to 10-hour flight there and back. And it would go and complete its mission. And of the 12,731 of these aircraft that were built, they lost pretty much about 2/3 of them.
To be able to take veterans back on a flight on the 17 is memorable to me. It's emotional because they usually get emotional, and sometimes the family get emotional, and you can just see them in their eyes reliving what they went through. And then a lot of times, you know, they start opening up and telling their story of what they did and certain things that happened in their life when they served, and a lot of times the family didn't even know about it, and they come out here and they open up and they want to share their story, and that's what we enjoy. We want to share their story and their experiences and educate the public and the families on what these men went through.
I really look forward to today. It's going to be a real thrill and a real remembrance for me to ride on this B-17. I graduated from high school when I was 16 years old. So the day I turned 18, I went down to the draft board and registered and said I'd like to go in the next group. And that was July of 1944. And I think Iwo Jima was in March of 1945. And my platoon went to the West Coast and apparently ended up on Iwo Jima. And when the platoons made up of 60 people were trained together, you got very close to the individuals that were in the platoon with you. And when you were there and you were 18 years old, it was hard to believe that you were that far from home.
Well, one of the most memorable stories I've talked to with a vet and found out a little bit about his story was we were up in Ithaca, New York about 10 years ago, and one of our members lives in Ithaca, and she was a home care nurse, a hospice nurse, and she had a veteran that flew on B-17s, and that's all we knew, and he wanted to come out and see the aircraft. So I was able to meet him because he was a top turret flight engineer, which is my crew position. And we started to push him to the aircraft, and he just said, "Stop, I want to get out and walk." And he ended up getting up and walking around the aircraft and looking at it. He peeked in through the back hatch, and we asked him if he wanted help to get in. He said, "No." He goes, "I've seen them, I know what they look like." He said, "I just kind of wanted to look at it," and spent maybe 20 minutes with him, just kind of showing him the aircraft and stuff. And he said, "Okay, well, I'm done. I'm going to go home now." Our member took him back to the hospice house. When she came back, she told us the story that he told her. He was a top turret gunner, and I don't remember what mission it was, but when they got hit and the plane was starting to go down, they were taught if they heard the bailout bell, which is a big bell, there's a couple of them throughout the aircraft, that the crew, you don't hesitate, the plane's going to go down if you hear that bell, is to bail out of the plane. So he was watching the other crew members bail out, the bell went off, So he was actually getting ready to jump out of the plane, and he realized the pilot and co-pilot wasn't behind him. So he actually climbed back up on the flight deck and found the pilot and co-pilot were both wounded, and they couldn't get out of their seats. So he helped both of them get out of the seats while the plane is going down, threw them both out of the front hatch, pulled their parachutes as they went out the hatch, and then he followed him. So he was disobeying orders because when you heard the bell, you're supposed to jump, and he went back in. Found out later that the co-pilot succumbed to his injuries. The pilot and himself and the rest of the crew were captured and were interred in the German POW camp. After the war, they had written up a citation, and he was a Silver Star Medal winner. And no one knew about it. He didn't talk about it. It was really neat to meet the guy and shake his hand and thank him for his service. And we come to find out about 4 or 5 days later that he had passed away. But we were able to get his story and be able to retell it.
These guys come out of the woodwork, a lot of times they don't even tell their story to their families or anybody else, but they get to see the airplane under better conditions at this time and sometimes tell our stories, and that's the best part about the whole deal, actually.
These stories aren't written down in books anywhere, you know, and we're bringing these people out, we're having them, you know, tell their side, tell their history, and we just keep filling in the blanks. Come out and support us and support what we're doing, because we're losing these veterans every day, and pretty soon some of these planes won't even be flying anymore. They'll just be parked in museums.
There are very few of the people from World War II that are my age that are still around. It brings back memories almost every day of something that happened when you were in the service.
All hands to reaching station. This is the day and this is the hour. The sky is lightening over the coast of Europe as we go in.
Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.